Hey dudes, SilviteSoltis here, back again with another Burning Crusade video. One of the best parts of the Burning Crusade has always been its dungeons. From the moment you step through the Dark Portal at level 58, all the way to farming badges at 70, you spend a ton of time in these instances. But while some are absolute bangers, others can really be a slog. So, in anticipation of the eventual release of TBC Anniversary, I thought it would be fun to rank all of the Burning Crusade dungeons in a single tier list. From the ones you'll want to avoid as much as possible, to the S tier favorites that you'll be running all expansion long, I'll discuss the good, the bad, and everything in between. That said, I would like to stress two things. Firstly, despite some dungeons being worse than others, all the dungeons in the Burning Crusade are generally pretty good, if not amazing. So while there may be some that rank lower than others, they are all generally a good time. Secondly, these are all my own personal opinions based on my experiences and research. One player's worst nightmare may be another's dream come true after all, so take these rankings with a grain of salt. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what your favorite or least favorite Burning Crusade dungeon is. But with that intro out of the way, let's dive right in. Starting at the bottom of the barrel, we've got Mana Tombs and Auchenai Crypts. Mana Tombs is one of those dungeons that sounds pretty cool on paper. You're fighting giant voidwalkers, ethereal, and crystal giants, all within a glowy sci-fi crypt. In practice, however, the bosses and loot are all pretty underwhelming. While you're leveling, other dungeons generally have better EXP per hour, and the consortium reputation isn't particularly valuable. So, outside of its handful of quests or a couple specific drops, there's little reason to do this one. Then there's Auchenai Crypts. With only 2 bosses, but mountains of trash mobs, this place can be a real slog. The effort to reward ratio just really isn't there. Sure, the lower city reputation is useful, but you can farm it more efficiently in other dungeons like Sethek Halls or Shadow Labyrinth. So, unless it's the daily heroic, you can bet that, for the most part, players will be skipping past this one too. Next up in C tier, we've got 3 entries: Old Hillsbrad Foothills, the Blood Furnace, and Sethek Halls. Old Hillsbrad is an amazing concept in theory. You're literally rescuing and fighting alongside Thrall through an iconic piece of Warcraft history. But here's the issue. You're stuck following him as he RP walks and rides a poor man's mount across the map. And no matter how much your character levels and grows in power, there's just no speeding this place up. It's a cool story dungeon to do once for sure, but not much beyond that. The Blood Furnace, on the other hand, is great for leveling in the low 60s. The Fel Orc aesthetic and bosses are pretty solid, and the loot is a big step up if you're not fully decked out in vanilla epics already. But the heroic version? Brutal. There's tons of trash, the Felguards hit like trucks, and repeated wipes can make the run miserable. And then there's Sethek Halls. The Arakoa are kind of neat, and the heroic-only boss Anzu for the Druid's Swift Flight form quest is a cool extra touch. But for most players, this dungeon is just too much trash and not enough payoff. Kind of like the Crypts. Outside of needing it once for your Shadow Labyrinth key, it's really forgettable. Except for my personal 5-hour run back in 2007. That's a memory that I'll be haunted by until the end of time. Moving on to the middle of the pack, we've got 5 entries that are pretty solid for our B tier. The Shattered Halls, the Underbog, the Arcatraz, the Black Morass, and Magister's Terrace. The Shattered Halls is a love it or hate it dungeon. One of its coolest aspects is that it has tons of big gauntlet poles that have great AoE potential, which is awesome for those paladin tanks. Heroic can be nasty without proper crowd control, but in general the fast pace, solid rep, and high quality loot make it worth the grind. The Underbog is another solid option. As a leveling experience, it offers great XP and has a bunch of quests. And as a heroic at level 70, the 4 bosses make it a solid badge farm too. With a cool steampunky atmosphere, iconic bosses like Gazan the Hydra and Swamp Lord Musulik, and its decent rewards, it's a solid middle-tier dungeon. High up in the twisting nethers of Netherstorm, the Auchenai stands out as the toughest of the Tempest Keep dungeons. It's an epic conclusion to the dungeon trio, and has some really cool boss encounters, but it's much more punishing than its siblings. Because of that, people, myself included, tend to run Botanica or Mechanar instead. Still, it's required for your Karazhan and Tempest Keep attunements, and Millhouse Manastorm yelling, "I'm gonna let you up, sweet cheeks," makes it worth seeing at least a few times. Heading back over to the Caverns of Time, the Black Morass is one of my personal favorites for its sheer concept. You're helping Medivh open the Dark Portal while fighting a bunch of dragons after all. It's generally fast-paced and fun, but wipes are particularly punishing since it basically means you need to restart. Overall though, it's a fun and unique experience that can offer quick badge farming at higher gear levels. And finally, the Magister's Terrace, added in the Sunwell patch, is the final entry to our B tier. This magical, Blood Elf-themed dungeon is packed with powerful loot that's on par with some raid gear, but it's tuned to be harder than the other dungeons as a result, especially on Heroic. The penultimate arena-style boss fight can be a real headache for those not acquainted with PvP encounters, and Kael'thas 2.0 can be a bit lackluster if you've already killed him in Tempest Keep. Still, it's visually astounding, offers great rewards, and is generally a good time. A fitting final entry to our B tier. Alright, now we're really getting into the heavy hitters. Up in the A tier, I've got 4 amazing dungeons: the Steam Vault, the Botanica, the Mechanar, and Hellfire Ramparts. Starting this tier off, the Steam Vault is a near-perfect dungeon experience. It's straightforward, with 3 unique bosses spread out along a fairly linear path. It's pretty hard to get lost. And while there is a ton of trash, much of it can be skipped with some basic wall hugging and patience waiting for patrols to leave. As an endgame dungeon, the gear is solid for fresh level 70s, and the heroic version is fairly challenging without being too painful. All in all, it's a fun experience that everyone has to do for attunements and gear, so it's definitely one to look forward to. Moving over to Netherstorm, the Botanica is a badge farmer's dream. With a whopping 5 bosses, solid loot, and nothing particularly difficult, it's a great dungeon to run on a daily basis. Yes, there's a bunch of trash, but nothing as difficult as the Architraz, or as dense as the Shattered Halls. If you're running normal, the loot is awesome, and if you're farming badges, Botanica is by far the most efficient run in the game. Its twin brother, the Mechanar, is equally great. Between the Mechanolord's bomb mechanic, the Phoenix fire patches of Nethermancer Sepethria, and the gauntlet leading to Pthalion at the end, the encounters are all top-notch. And with all the loot opportunities, it's one of the most fun and replayable dungeons in the Burning Crusade. Plus, it's a pretty fast clear as well, which is always a welcome aspect of a dungeon in Classic. Finally, back in Hellfire Peninsula, we've got the Hellfire Ramparts. This dungeon is absolutely iconic in the Burning Crusade experience. It's the first instance players zone into in Outland, and it's solid as both a normal and as a heroic dungeon. With 3 unique encounters, it's short, quick, and easy to farm. Whether for experience, reputation, or badges of justice, everyone knows this place inside and out, meaning it's definitely deserving of its A-tier status. Finally, towering above all the rest of the dungeons in the game, we've got 2 S-tier dungeons: the Slave Pens and Shadow Labyrinth. The Slave Pens is one of the most popular dungeons in the entire game. As a leveling instance, it's got great farming potential with tons of mobs and great blue items. It's actually so jam-packed with enemies that it's become a staple for boosters, for better or for worse. At level 70, its heroic version serves as an excellent farm as well. Though you do actually need to use crowd control to survive the final few trash packs, its 3 relatively easy bosses and tons of skippable trash make it a fairly quick badge farm. Plus, Heroic has some of the best starter gear out there, with Quagmiren's Eye being a trinket that many players will chase for a long time. If you want a fun time, the Slave Pens is a great place to go. And finally, over in the Terakar Forest, we've got the final of the Auchenai dungeons, the Shadow Labyrinth. While its sibling dungeons are all fairly lackluster, this place really has it all. Great loot, strong reputation with a useful faction, Aldor reputation items, solid quests with great rewards, and one of the most memorable bosses in all of the Burning Crusade, Blackheart the Inciter. Man, that mass mind control never gets old. While it does have quite a bit of trash, it's not a ludicrous amount. And by the time you reach Murmur, the last boss, you're ready for a fantastic final boss experience. Add in the fact that this place is part of your Karazhan attunement, and you can really see why Shadow Labyrinth sits up in the S tier as one of the best dungeons of the Burning Crusade. So, there you have it. All of the TBC dungeons ranked in a single tier list. The Burning Crusade has an astonishing array of different dungeons to run. And while there are some that you'll probably never want to touch again after doing them once, there are others that you'll run dozens of times without ever getting old. But what do you guys think? Did I rank your favorite dungeon too low? Or do you think that I put something too high? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your take on which dungeons are the best or the worst, and why. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss more TBC content as we continue to head toward Outland soon. But for now, that's all I've got. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, take it easy, guys.